Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another day in my life. So I'm really excited about bringing you guys along for today's video because as usual, I'm not only making a ton of good food that I'm excited to share, but I'm just gonna be doing some things around the house, some cleaning, organizing, some baking, which is always very exciting. And I'm just gonna be sharing some of my everyday routine things that have been implemented into my life. Now, also, I recently got to go to a wellness retreat up here in North Idaho, and it was honestly one of the coolest things I've ever been to. So I'm gonna bring you along for that as well. Before we hop right in, if you haven't checked out my Patreon yet, what are you waiting for, guys? Just kidding, but not kidding. I talk about a lot of things, including some things that are too spicy for YouTube, in my opinion. So I will have that link down below if you want to check it out. And to everyone that's already joined me over there, thank you so much. All right, so I was really excited because this brand, Amalu, I think it's Amalu, I don't think it's Amylu, I think it's Amalu, recently sent me this box of their products because I tried some of their chicken sausages at Costco and I was so blown away that when I tagged them on Instagram, they said they wanted me to try a few more items. Now, on this day, obviously I just got in the box, so I hadn't eaten any of the food, but I will say this, spoiler alert, I've eaten a lot of these items now, and they've all been delicious. Their ingredients are very simple, and it's just tasty and very convenient for those days where you don't have all of the time in the world to pull something together. So I highly recommend this brand if you ever see them out and about, and honestly, I've liked everything I've tried from them so far. Okay, so I started off by browning some butter for this treat I was making because I found these brown butter sourdough discard chocolate chip cookies on Pinterest. So I started by browning the butter because it's gonna have to cool afterwards, which brown butter makes everything better, just throwing that out there. And then while that was happening, Dan actually ground up some wheat berries for me. If you guys have been watching me for a while, you saw my vlogs in Nashville. We got this wheat grinder from a friend of ours and I love it so much. And we had not actually ground any wheat since we moved to Idaho. So today was like our official, let's make this place home and grind some wheat. While we were working on that, Logie was parked on the floor with his blocks, which have been his favorite toy lately. Let me just throw that out there. He's obsessed with building planes and trains. So once my butter had had a chance to cool, I moved on with the recipe, which was pouring the butter and the sugars into the mixer and mixing those together. Look at all that yummy caramelized butter. That's what you're looking at the bottom of that bowl, the brown sludge. It looks gross, but it tastes and smells absolutely incredible. So once I had done that, I measured in my sourdough discard and my vanilla extract. I also had already put 3 egg yolks in the mix. I guess I didn't get that footage. And then I put my dry mixture with all my flours and my baking powders and salt. I will link the recipe down below. I changed it a little bit because I'm me, so of course I really didn't have much chocolate that day. I was like chopping up a chocolate bar and I decided to candy a bunch of pecans. Actually, I redid these cookies yesterday and I also candied pistachios. And I measured out my cookies into little 50-gram balls and I baked them up. And let me tell you my updated status, these are the best cookies I've ever made. I'm not kidding, guys. So good. So we are trying to squeeze out every last drop of summer. And on this day, it was absolutely beautiful out. So me and my family made our way to a local hiking spot here in town called English Point. We really like this spot because not only, as you can see, it's absolutely stunning. It's like you're transported into some magical faraway hiking fairyland. But on top of that, it's a fairly easy path. You guys know if you watched my last vlog, I have this weird thing against people that are like, it's so easy in regards to nature stuff. And like, it's not, it just turns out they're way immersed into the whole outdoorsy thing. But I will tell you, this actually is. Now granted, depending on the day, by the end of the hike, it's a little tiring. But in general, this hike really is just a flat path. and it's really beautiful, and it was really nice just being out in nature, getting fresh air, seeing the beautiful views, and hanging out with my fam. All right, so I believe this next recipe that I'm making, I saw on a half-baked harvest Instagram post. And once again, we changed it a little bit based on what we had on hand, but we decided to make this curry chicken meatball goodness. So I started off by frying up some bell peppers and some chopped red onions. Then I threw in a bunch of garlic and ginger, and then of course my curry paste. Once that had a little bit of time to heat up and get really fragrant and delicious, I poured in some homemade bone broth. And then Dan says I did this totally wrong. I don't know. I don't watch many curry videos, but I dumped my coconut milk into my mixture. Then I added in a little bit of peanut butter, which normally I feel like this would so not be my thing, but let me just say this was delicious. Then I threw in a few tablespoons of coconut aminos to replace soy sauce. Then I added a couple of tablespoons of honey. Once that had a little bit of time to cook and come together, just a little bit because I wanted to actually cook it with the meatballs, I threw in these lemongrass chicken meatballs that Dan had picked up from Costco that are also fairly clean ingredients and once again, super easy. So while that was simmering in the pan, I put some rice noodles into a pot to cook up. Then I scooped out my curry mixture and I added a little bit of cilantro on top. You can't see my noodles, but I also had already scooped my noodles in here. Then I squeezed some fresh lime juice on top as well. I feel like this doesn't translate to exactly how yummy it was, so just take my word for it. It was yum factor 10. Okay, so I believe this was dinner and I wanted to make a pasta. So I started off by stir frying my leftover asparagus that I had, some red onions, and I had a few mushrooms that I needed to cook up. So I cooked those up and then I made a roux in a pan. Now, if you watch all of my day in my life, you'll know that I actually attempted something similar to this maybe like a month or two ago. And I kind of ruined it, but I also kind of salvaged it because that's one of my mottos in cooking, that almost everything is salvageable. But I started off by making this roux. We're going to be making a spaghetti squash pasta because I needed to do it again. So after I made my roux with my equal parts flour and butter, I stirred in some of my homemade bone broth. And once that got whisked in, I also added in some cream and just continued to whisk. It actually might have been milk now that I'm thinking about it. Then my spaghetti squash, which last time I did it was way too overcooked, actually turned out to be a little bit undercooked this time, but I will say that ended up being fine because, spoiler alert, the whole thing has a little bit of a crunch to it, but it's not bad. It's almost kind of like a warm salad, which sounds gross, but I'm telling you it was good. And we ended up having some noodles left over. So in the following days, I was actually able to add these noodles to other recipes, like a few different salads that I made. Then I had this block of Gruyere, so I decided to shred that up. So once I put that cheese in with my little sauce mixture, I just stirred it all together and let it beautifully melt. The This whole meal was super yummy, even with the butternut squash being a little bit underdone, which, by the way, I recommend underdone versus overdone, because when it's overdone, it just kind of mushes together and loses its noodle vibe, but underdone is still tasty. I've mentioned this many times, but I haven't said this in a while because I haven't filmed myself doing laundry in a while. But I actually don't mind doing laundry. Like, I actually kind of find it therapeutic. So random, but now it was time to do some laundry. I don't like my laundry to pile up too much. When I do my laundry, this might be obvious, but I've actually feel like I know a lot of people who don't do this. I sort my laundry by colors in order to make it so that my stuff doesn't fade super quickly. So I had been letting bagel dough ferment for a little bit, and it was time to make my bagels. So as you can see, I separate my dough into balls by just cutting like in half, in half, in half, in half, which that was totally Dan's way that he taught me to do. And then I formed my bagel balls. So each little pack I kind of fold over a few times, and then I stick my thumb in the center, and I do this little wheel motion that Logan loves to imitate from time to time to create my bagel shape. And then I just set it down back on the counter, because after I do this, they have to rise for a little bit before I boil them. By the way, I feel like I've shouted this out quite a few times recently, but if you're ever interested in making sourdough bagels, which I highly recommend, I can't believe I went so long in my life having to find bagels other places when little did I know I could make my own like bomb bagels from home by myself. I wish I hadn't waited so long. I have a video all about how to make these, so I will leave that link down below if you want to check that video out, or if you want to start with something simpler, I have like the easiest sourdough bread recipe ever that I will also link down below. So then I covered up my bagels to rise for a little bit, and I went and got a little bit more cleaning done. These mirrors, as I'm sure you can imagine, get pretty gross pretty fast. On this day, I decided it was time to wipe them down, because Logan's favorite thing to do is to rub his hands all over the mirror. So once I wiped that down, then I went to my bathroom and I decided to do a little bit of wiping and cleaning in there as well. And then I put some tangerine oil in my diffuser and let that diffuse. It smelled amazing. And then I sat down for a few minutes with this morning and evening Charles Spurgeon devotional that I recently picked up at Goodwill with my friend. I love it, by the way. I would have never have even seen this on the shelf if my friend hadn't spotted it. And I sat down for a few minutes and I read that morning's devotional. I've also found myself reading the devotional at breakfast or at dinner with the boys sometimes too, and it's really lovely and encouraging. By the way, I had been sipping on this little glass of iced tea this morning in my old fond bone broth jar. And so once my big pot of water with a teaspoon of sugar had heated up, I threw in 4 of my bagels to boil. And once I had done approximately 2 minutes on each side, then I took those bagels out and I put them on my sheet pan to bake in the oven. But they were going to wait for the other 4 to boil as well. I had used up so much starter the night before to make my bread loaf and my bagel loaf that I definitely needed to feed my starter. So that's what I did next. Got to keep my starter going. I'm actually pretty astonished because lately I've only been feeding my starter like 2 to 3 times a week, and it's still staying strong and alive. And I pretty much always let Logan stir the starter and help me out with that as well. Then I don't think I got any footage of this, but I actually filled up my watering pot with some water and this Joyful Dirt houseplant fertilizer so that I could water all of my houseplants while Logan hung out on the couch and read his book. You're welcome for these beautiful bread shots. I think bread is my favorite food group. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Then I peeked out the window and I saw a baby deer just hanging out. So I had to get this shot. All right, guys, so this was very exciting. This is the wellness event I was talking about that was thrown by Ashley of Simple Holistic. So early in the day, we actually went on like a plant walk with Amber from Lucid Lavender Botanicals. So we walked around where we had the event, and she was showing us the different plants that she saw and explaining how we could use them, make certain plants into a tea, what their uses are, and it was really cool. Amber makes really beautiful products using local plants. So if you want to check out her stuff, I will link her business down below. So this is the house where the event was being hosted, and the view is just insane, as you can see. And we all just kind of camped out on blankets and chairs. So we ate basically nonstop at this event, and it was amazing. Like, all of the snacks and both of the meals were absolutely incredible. I am such a foodie, but I'm also just like a foodie in the sense of I like things to be nourishing and healthy, and that's what everything at this event was. So it really was a dream come true kind of event. So go Ashley! She's the one who threw the event. So we got to make our very own elderberry tincture. So that was pretty cool to see how simple it was to create. And now it just kind of sits and soaks up the goodness. Do you want to say hi, Maria? Hi, Maria. Maria came with me today. Very excited that she's here. But that was really cool because a lot of the stuff that she showed actually grows like right next to my house, and I'm kind of in the city. Well, she would say I'm way in the city, but I'm in the city, and I have like some of the things that she showed, so that was super cool. So yeah, it was really fun, not only just getting to go to this event and meet so many like-minded women, but it was also really awesome to get to go with Maria. We've gotten to do a lot of really cool things over the last year since I've moved here, and this was just another one to the list. Super awesome. So yeah, guys, that is it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Feel free to leave me a comment if you have any questions or letting me know your favorite part of the video. And I will see you in the comments, and God willing, I will see you back here soon with another new video. All right, bye guys.